Welcome everyone to episode 54 of Let's Talk Wrestling. It is the peak of Unique Jordan Megas. We are back for another week of wrestling news, reviews, and roundup. Welcome back to all of our returning listeners. Thank you so much for continuing to support the podcast. And welcome to all of our new listeners. No matter which way you listen, be it Podbean, iTunes, or YouTube, we're available on all platforms. But thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. And I'd like to thank you formally by offering you a free 30-day trial to Audible, the amazing audiobook service. Over 180,000 titles to choose from. You get 30 days to try the service free using our custom trial link, audibletrial.com/letstalkwrestling. All you do, you go to that link, go through a quick sign-up process. You get 30 days to try the service. It'll be $14.95 after that 30 days, but you get a free audiobook download as well as the 30 days. And you can download any book that they have on there. There are a lot of books to choose from, including a lot of wrestling books. I know Daniel Bryan's book is on there, Hulk Hogan's. I believe all of Chris Jericho's books are on there. Some of them read by the wrestlers themselves. And any kind of book you can think of will be available on this amazing audiobook website. And you can choose any book you like. You get a free download on us. So if you decide that the service is not for you, then you can cancel at any time. You can cancel on day 29, but the book you download is yours to keep. You get to keep that forever and a day, so it's at no risk to you because you get to keep your audiobook and you get to stay either on the service, whether you decide to stick with it, or you can decide to say, it's not my cup of tea, I don't want it, and you still get to keep whatever you got. So once again, that link is audibletrial.com/letstalkwrestling. So before we get into the wrestling portion of this show, which is obviously the big chunk, the meat of the sandwich, I would like to give a shout out to a good friend of mine by the name of Melissa Henderson. She is currently attending Berklee School of Music in Boston, Massachusetts. But she is now with her band No Hugs, who are currently on a tour, and they are playing at a very legendary venue for those that are fans of 80s rock music. And that venue is The Whiskey down in Los Angeles. The Whiskey being the first venue that Motley Crue ever performed in. It was their first gig, the place where the Crue got their start back in 1981. And I got a chance to ask her how it feels to be walking in the footsteps of one of the greatest hair bands of all time. And she said it's extremely surreal, and she doesn't think it's going to hit her until she actually hits the stage, which I don't blame her, because there's a lot of history there, and there's also a mentality of, I'll believe it when I see it. Even though you're booked for it, even though you're set to attend, even though you're on the flight, you still might not think, okay, this is happening until you get to the venue. But congratulations to Melissa Henderson and everyone in No Hugs. From all of us at Let's Talk Wrestling to you, we say congratulations. And I'd also like to just touch base on the NFL playoffs. Those are going on right now. Remember those? The football games that decide a champion every year? Yeah, that's totally not scripted. And the only reason I say that is because we now have our conference championships, the big semifinal matches to decide who will go to the Super Bowl. The NFC has the Los Angeles Rams taking on the New Orleans Saints, and the AFC has the Kansas City Chiefs taking on, who would have thunk it, the New England Patriots. Now, obviously, I don't want to see the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. I don't know anybody that does. It is an extremely repetitive process, and people want to say that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. That's why Tom Brady has all these numbers, da-da-da-da-da. Well, you got to look at one thing, okay? First off, in my opinion, Tom Brady is not the greatest quarterback of all time. To be the greatest quarterback of all time, you got to be perfect when it comes to the big game situations. You got to be perfect in the championship. And it's the same way with LeBron James in the NBA, when they say that he's the greatest and now Michael Jordan is number 2. In my opinion, Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. And let me tell you why. They have similar numbers when it comes to, passing yards, touchdowns, interception ratios, things of that nature. But when you get to the big game, of course, yes, Tom Brady has been in, I believe it's 8 Super Bowls now. He may be entering his 9th. He won in 2001, 2004, and then competed in like the last 6, or at least made it to the conference championship the last 6 or 7 years. And that's one of the things it's extremely repetitive. We're tired of hearing it. But one reason why I say that Tom Brady is not the greatest quarterback and Joe Montana is when it comes to the Super Bowl, yes, Tom Brady has been in more Super Bowls, but Joe Montana has not lost a Super Bowl. Every time he made it to the big dance, he won the game. And Tom Brady has lost the Super Bowl, I believe it's 3 times now. He's lost to the Giants twice, and then he lost to the Eagles. So there's reason number 1. Reason number 2, Joe Montana has never thrown an interception in a Super Bowl. Joe Montana, not even an interception. Joe Montana has never turned the ball over in a Super Bowl. Tom Brady has on a number of occasions, and some of those occasions being extremely crucial, such as last year's occasion, whenever Tom Brady fumbled the ball with, I think it was a minute and a half left. Fletcher Cox coming for the tackle to get the ball stripped away and pick up the Super Bowl victory, the first ever for the Philadelphia Eagles. But Tom Brady, he may be heading back to the Super Bowl. My official prediction will say that he won't. Not because I want to see Brady lose. I do, but that's not my reasoning. You have an incredible team in the Kansas City Chiefs. And with their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, being an MVP nominee, there is no way that this Kansas City team can lose to the New England Patriots. I just don't want to see it. You have such an amazing team with this Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is putting up numbers like nobody's business when it comes to high touchdowns, low interceptions. I believe they've scored, a good, I think they're averaging around 28 to 30 points a game, or some big number like that. Totally outshining the Patriots this season. And of course, yes, the Patriots did beat Kansas City. I think it was week 1 or week 2. But since then, Kansas City has been on fire, almost unstoppable. And I think that the Kansas City Chiefs will advance to the Super Bowl this year to take on the Los Angeles Rams. I have almost no doubt in my mind. Drew Brees is amazing, okay? I think he doesn't get enough credit as he does, or as he should, when you talk about, some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and putting up big numbers at such a high age because of Tom Brady. Everyone wants to say, oh, Tom Brady, he's 40 years old and he's still with an amazing team taking them to the conference championship every year. Well, you know what? Drew Brees is just about the same age, and this year he put up better numbers than Brady. Better numbers, a better record, and he could be heading to the Super Bowl as well. But you got to think, over the years, Drew Brees has put up some amazing numbers only to be overshadowed by Tom Brady. I feel like this might be an indication of, or somewhat a reincarnation of Karl Malone versus Michael Jordan, where a superstar is in the NBA, has all the talent in the world, is one of the biggest names, but gets overshadowed by the alleged greatest of all time. Or, the greatest of the era, at least. And it shows, too. It definitely shows. But I'll say that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Rams will be the Super Bowl this year. I hope with every fiber of my being that at least the Kansas City Chiefs part is right. All I know is that the Rams and Saints game this Sunday, or Saturday, I forgot which game is on, but Saints and Rams is going to be a barn burner. No doubt about it. So now it's time for you guys to get to the big reason you're here, and that is professional wrestling. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do it, and let's talk wrestling. And we're going to start with a big change to the Royal Rumble. Obviously, the main event, other than the 2 Rumble matches themselves, was supposed to be Braun Strowman taking on Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. But now, that is now off. And the reason that is because, well, first let's examine what happened on Raw. Braun Strowman, he went and chased Baron Corbin because Corbin, he's up to his old tricks, I guess you could say. Found out that Corbin was in a limo, tore the door off of the limo, and it happened to belong to Vince McMahon. Vince fined Braun $100,000. Braun said he wasn't going to pay for it. And then Vince said, you know what? You're out of the Universal Championship match. You do not have a title shot with Brock Lesnar anymore. And then Braun Strowman flipped over the limo, because that's what he does. So now, Braun Strowman is without a match at the Royal Rumble. But the reason for that being is because it's a way to increase his recovery time. Why isn't Braun Strowman in this match? Well, obvious reason is that he's just not physically cleared by WWE's medical staff to do a match of that level. He had the match with Baron Corbin at TLC, but we saw the interference there. And there's no way they're going to do that with the match against Brock Lesnar. I don't think there will be interference in another Brock Lesnar match. And that's just the way things go. Now, Lesnar may keep the Universal Championship through to WrestleMania 35, but there's still a chance that WWE could deliver a Lesnar-Strowman match in the future. I'm not ruling that out by any means. But in retaliation to Braun being eliminated from the match, 4 superstars stepped up to the plate and said, I want to face Brock Lesnar. I deserve a Universal title match. And so Vince McMahon made a fatal 4-way to determine the new number 1 contender to Brock Lesnar's Universal Championship. Those 4 superstars being John Cena, Finn Balor, Drew McIntyre, and Baron Corbin himself. So after this fatal 4-way match, we have a new number 1 contender. And at the Royal Rumble for the Universal Championship, it will be Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor. I first want to say how satisfied I am at the result of that. I would have been satisfied if it was Finn or Drew. Baron, I would have been complacent. I would have hated if John Cena won because, I don't want to see John Cena being the man with the most world title reigns. He's tied with Ric Flair in WWE's eyes, but I don't want to see him beat it. John Cena, he has all this stuff going for him, and he is a part-timer now. Whether he wants to admit it or not, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. Yes, he always comes back, but he is still a part-timer. He is now transitioning into Hollywood. He's becoming The Rock, essentially. Maybe not as high a level, doing his many big box office movies, but he's still getting into the entertainment world, making millions of dollars, and living the happy life. But he's no longer a full-time wrestler in WWE anymore. So we can now eliminate John Cena from being full-time ever again, basically, because I don't think it's going to happen, especially with how big he is now. I don't think he's going to show back up on a full-time basis. But now back to the Royal Rumble match. Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar. I love this idea. I love the idea of the Beast versus the Demon, because there's no way that Finn Balor is going to go into a match with Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship and not come as the Demon. And you know what? Honestly, I hope Finn Balor wins. I want to see Finn Balor as the Universal Champion again. And this isn't I want Brock Lesnar to lose the title. This is me wanting Finn Balor to win the title. Because I've been a big supporter of Finn Balor ever since his debut in NXT in 2014 and sometime before that, whenever he was Prince Devitt on the independent circuit in a New Japan. But I was a big supporter of him then. I'm a big supporter of him now. I want him to be the Universal Champion again. He won the title back in 2016 in a match with Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. But obviously he had the torn shoulder, had to have surgery, and he hasn't had a championship match since. He has not been involved in a Universal title match since he got that injury. So he never lost the title. And I know we've done away with the idea of rematches, but Finn Balor's owed one. 2 years before that rule was made, where there are no more rematches. Finn Balor never got his from 2016. He's getting it now. The Beast versus the Demon. And, they always have the Vegas betting odds for the Royal Rumble. So I took a look at them, and they're actually not as lopsided as you would think. I would have suspected Brock Lesnar to be, a major favorite, like a, 2 to 10 favorite, while Finn Balor's at a 20 to 1, or some astronomical number like that. But it is actually a lot closer. Finn Balor is actually a 5 to 2 odds of winning. So for those that don't get the odds lines, like the betting lines, 5-2. So that's basically saying if you bet $100 on anything, if it's 5-2 and you bet $100 and you win, you get a $40 profit. So basically you get 2/5 profit. You get your money back and then the profit. But if Finn Balor, so let's say his odds go down to 20-1, okay, and you win the bet, you still bet $100 off 20-1. That means you would win $2,000. You would get your money back and then the other money to get it added up to $2,000. And for those that may see other betting lines, like, where it says Finn Balor is like minus 250 or minus 300 or anything, this could help you with betting. But if you see odds like that, those are based on $100 bets. So if you're at a plus 250, then if you bet $100 and win, you'll make $250. That's how much money you will win. But I just wanted to say that, his odds are not that bad. His odds are not that astronomical as we thought they would be. I assumed that he was going to be this major, 20-1, 30-1 odds of beating Brock Lesnar, while Brock Lesnar was a shoo-in. Not as certain as everyone would believe it to be. And that makes me very happy, considering that the favorite to win the Royal Rumble this year is Seth Rollins. And I would love to see Seth Rollins win the Universal Championship at WrestleMania by taking out Brock Lesnar. But at the same time, let's picture this, okay? Let's say in my perfect world, at least, Finn Balor wins the Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins wins the Royal Rumble match. So at WrestleMania 35 for the Universal Championship, it would be Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. It'd be a repeat of the big match from 2016 to crown the first ever Universal Champion. And this is a match I would not mind seeing repeated. And honestly, it would give them a chance to showcase exactly what it is they're capable of. Now, SummerSlam 2016, that was an amazing match that they had, don't get me wrong. But the torn shoulder definitely brought things down a certain degree. And I cannot wait to see those two tear it up in the ring again, because I don't think it'll be a very long time before we see those two go one-on-one for the Universal Championship. Or one-on-one period in a big high-stakes match, whether it's just a match on pay-per-view, whether it's for a title, whether it's at WrestleMania, whether it's at Backlash. You'll see those two in the ring one-on-one this year. And I'll be excited every single step of the way. But the odds are still in favor of Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins, in which case I would still want to see Seth Rollins win the title. So the Royal Rumble, just over a week away. I'm sticking with my guns with Seth Rollins winning the men's Royal Rumble, and the women's, I'm hoping it will be Becky Lynch. I'm hoping that if she doesn't beat Asuka and reclaim the SmackDown Women's title, that she goes into the Rumble, wins it, and goes to Raw to face Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's title. Otherwise, I can see them going with Charlotte winning the Rumble to face Ronda at WrestleMania. And I'm not going to say that's a shame, because there's a great story going on there with Charlotte and Ronda. I will say it's a missed hit, okay? Because we saw Ronda and Charlotte, and they do have a bit of a story. But I think it's better to get the match that we should have gotten at Survivor Series instead of getting a repeat of the match we did get at Survivor Series. And, they're still exchanging words on Twitter. Becky Lynch and Charlotte and Ronda Rousey, all exchanging words on Twitter. Becky and Ronda more than Charlotte. But, all the words are being tossed around. There are even rumors of a triple threat match between the three for the Raw Women's title. I would not be against that, but I feel it would be a bigger spectacle if we got Becky versus Ronda, because they can go off the angle of we should have seen this match, 4 months ago, but we didn't get a chance to because Becky got her face broken, which is essentially what happened. We all know what happened at Survivor Series, or 6 days before, that canceled their Survivor Series match. So now you have a chance to do that Becky-Ronda match that everyone was so hyped for. And Becky hasn't really lost any momentum. She really hasn't. And I love seeing her improve the way she has, and I'm excited to see what Becky brings to the table at the Royal Rumble. Hopefully she's in the Rumble match. Hopefully she wins. She is my official prediction at the moment. And next week will be the official Royal Rumble prediction show, and I will have my final prediction as to whether it'll be Becky or Charlotte and who will win the men's Rumble, and see who will go on to WrestleMania. So now we want to talk about the Ring of Honor and New Japan G1 Supercard. We're going outside WWE for a bit. Everyone knows the Madison Square Garden show that they have April 6th, 2019. That is the day before WrestleMania. And coincidentally, WWE changed the day of NXT TakeOver to that Friday. Just by coincidence, of course. Not by the fact that they are intimidated to lose fans to the G1 Supercard. Which I wouldn't have been. I would have still kept it on Saturday. Because you have a format. You follow your format every single time. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And of course, it may seem like a nice move to say, we want fans to be able to attend both shows. So we moved it to Friday. But there's no way that's the motive. They're afraid of losing NXT TakeOver fans to the G1 Supercard. And I believe that it's the wrong move to make because, or not just the wrong move, it's just a nonsensical because it's WrestleMania weekend. And being a part of 3 WrestleMania weekends thus far, I know that there are plenty of wrestling fans in the area that entire week. There's no way, you're not going to lose any numbers, you're not going to lose attendance because they're on the same night. If you see someone that is deciding between NXT TakeOver and G1 Supercard, you're going to see them say, oh, we're going to go to Supercard. Someone's going to be right there to pick that TakeOver ticket right back up. Because you have 2, 15 to 20,000 seat arenas with Madison Square Garden for G1 and the Barclays Center for NXT TakeOver. And you have roughly 70 to 75,000, maybe 80,000 fans in that area. You are definitely going to have someone to pick up the slack for those that say no to WWE and say yes to New Japan. But New Japan being in the Garden, there is a proposed main event, or a rumored main event finally going around. And that main event would be Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kazuchika Okada. I would not mind that. Dave Meltzer said it's not official or anything, but when he was in Japan, it said that was everyone. That's what everyone was saying, but he doesn't know if it's more than just a rumor. We could very well see Kenny Omega perform on that show, but there is no telling where he would be on the show, or even if he'll be on the show, because that actually segues into our next story, and that story being Kenny Omega saying that he will be wrestling on a large international platform in 2019. Now, there's no indication as to who it is. We know he's rumored to have turned down a big WWE contract. He said he is not re-signing with New Japan, so you can throw that out the window. So there is the possibility that he would sign with All Elite Wrestling. Although I don't know if I would say that's a big international platform yet. Obviously, they have all the tools there, but as of right now, it's just a promotion. It's not on any scale. It's just a promotion in the works. You're writing the blueprint right now. Okay, you don't have any shows done. You have not done one show thus far. You do not count All In. All In was a one-off thing, but you have not done one show as All Elite Wrestling, and so you just can't be considered in a large international platform yet. I'm not saying they won't be. I'm just saying you can't consider them that right now when they're not even out of the gate. We don't know how this is going to go. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then, between now and Double or Nothing, between now and the end of 2019 for All Elite Wrestling. We just don't know. But Kenny Omega being on a large international platform in 2019, it'd be the easy guess to say he goes to AEW. I'm not ruling out an appearance in WWE. I'm not ruling out him, possibly appearing. I'm not going to say at the Royal Rumble, but maybe the night after WrestleMania. Because I don't see him going to NXT should he come to the WWE. I see him, going to Raw or going to SmackDown and making waves. So there's Kenny Omega for you. We have the news. We were talking last week on superstars leaving WWE or possibly leaving WWE for AEW. We've heard rumors of Mike and Maria Kanellis asking for their release, which Maria debunked. She said, it's funny to hear everyone just assume they think they know everything because of a rumor. So I think that just kind of says, we didn't ask for our release, don't know where that came from. And then the Revival, well, there's no telling what they're going to do. But now there's news coming out that Dolph Ziggler could be done with the WWE. He hasn't been on TV since I believe it was New Year's Eve, the steel cage match with Drew McIntyre. And he's removed Dolph Ziggler, the name, from all of his social media accounts. And not just that, but he also was offered a WWE contract extension, to renew his contract. He turned it down. And he turned down a producer contract to where he would be a producer backstage. So he's getting a bunch of stand-up comedy dates, and he may head to All Elite. We don't know yet. Anybody that leaves WWE, the first question you're going to ask, will they go to All Elite? And the answer will always be, I don't know. Unless they outright say, I am going to All Elite Wrestling. There's no telling exactly where it is that they are going to go. Or what they're going to do if they're going to stay in the world of professional wrestling. Because it is their life. It is what makes them happy. But there may be some other alternative. Like Mick Foley, he loves being a professional Santa. He loves doing his stand-up comedy. He loves writing short stories. The point being, there are alternatives for wrestlers. Whether it's in or out of the wrestling business. You don't have to be a wrestler all your life. And they don't owe that to us. I hate when people say, oh, no, he should stay in the wrestling business. He owes us these amazing matches with these superstars. No, they don't. No, they do not. They are top-level superstars. Yes. They are amazing to watch. Yes. They are incredible people that we enjoy seeing on our televisions. Yes. They owe us everything in wrestling. No. At the end of the day, they are still people, like you and me. At the end of the day, they go home and, kiss their husband or wife, kiss their babies, and, work a job and try to support their family. That's what they do at the end of the day. And if they don't have that or enjoy that in wrestling, then they can walk away. That's why I stay away from the CM Punk situation. Everyone takes every single indication to say, oh, CM Punk's going to come back this year. This is going to be the time that CM Punk comes back to WWE. Oh, CM Punk is going to be back at AEW. Who cares? Who cares if CM Punk comes back to professional wrestling? I'm not saying I don't want to see it. I'm just saying I'll be happy or content if he doesn't. Because he's doing his thing. He's writing Drax the Destroyer with Marvel Comics. He is doing some independent films. He is happily married with his wife, AJ. He's happy. And that's what matters. People being happy. Not us being satisfied because they're still continuing to break themselves in a professional wrestling ring for our amusement. Just because we want to see it. If it doesn't make them happy, they deserve to go. And Dolph Ziggler, he's done this for, 15 years now? 15, 20 years? He deserves to say goodbye to WWE should he want that. If he feels he's not going to be used on that level, then he can leave. He can try somewhere else, or he can just walk out of the wrestling business. He's a big enough star where he can, at least be in some, decent films. I'm not saying, Mark Wahlberg Rock level, but, he could still, just be in some decent pictures. Such as like Gabriel Iglesias, performing in, just having either cameos or supporting roles. I'm not counting that out by any means. So we've seen the announcements of 5 superstars or 5 NXT personalities making their way to the main roster. which are EC3, Lacey Evans, Nikki Cross, Heavy Machinery, and Lars Sullivan. I addressed Lars Sullivan last week, but now EC3, Lacey Evans, and Heavy Machinery have been, introduced in backstage segments, because apparently Vince McMahon doesn't think that we know them well enough. Now, obviously, the mainstream audience does not, but you can't say, oh, well, we've hyped them for a month and a half on our television with advertisements, but we want them to just take a look at them in backstage segments to see if they like them, get familiar with the face. You can't do that, or I'm not going to say you can't do that, but I will say that won't work. You think we're going to know them better just because they're talking to another couple superstars backstage, or because they do a backstage promo that's like 10 seconds during a match? No. You have all these superstars, and the only one that's actually wrestled on the main roster is Nikki Cross, and she debuted this past Monday. Lars Sullivan, we addressed him last week. Heavy Machinery did a couple promos where, Otis made his big nonsensical noises, and then they made this weird shake with eggs, tuna, and pancakes. It looked grody, to say the least. Lacey Evans was talking to a couple people backstage. EC3 probably had the most exposure besides Nikki Cross with that, 10, 15-second interview during a match. But with some of those talents, I don't think you're doing them justice. I don't think you are, just because of the fact that they've been working their butts off in NXT. They deserve to be shot up to the main roster like everyone else. They deserve to be put in a decent position, from the start. And speaking of the main AEW news of them trying to poach talent from WWE, of big superstars becoming free agents, there's also the report going out that WWE is offering to beat out standing offers from other companies to try to prevent them from signing with another company and coming to WWE. Now, some people say, oh, that's an underhanded move. No, it's not. It's not an underhanded move at all. It is a demanding move. It is a smart move. If you can afford it, it is a smart move. Now, I'm not going to say that I want to see WWE monopolize the wrestling industry and be the only company that has anyone of significant talent, but I will say that at the end of the day, it's a business, okay? It's just like NFL teams or any team for any professional sport, okay? You want the best players on your team. You don't want to see an amazing top-tier player go to another team, so you want to give them a better offer than what they're offering so that they'll come to you. That's all there is to it. He wants more people to come to WWE. He doesn't want to see Kenny Omega go to Ring of Honor. He doesn't want to see him go to AEW or sign again with New Japan. He wants him to come to WWE. And that's really all there is to it. And I will end the show on a good note this week. Obviously, we know back in November or October that Roman Reigns had to relinquish the title because of, being re-diagnosed with leukemia. But we've gotten a picture, actually. Roman Reigns was spotted working out in Hawaii, and a fan caught him and got a picture with him, and Roman's looking good. Roman is looking very well. I hope he can return to the ring soon. Best wishes to him, and it'd be interesting to see what happens whenever they bring him back. So that's been this week's episode of Let's Talk Wrestling. Be sure to subscribe. Use our trial link to Audible to get yourself a free audiobook, audibletrial.com/Let's Talk Wrestling. And we'll be back next week with official Royal Rumble predictions. Until then, be well, stay safe. This has been Let's Talk Wrestling.